Hey guys, how's it going? I found this clip. It's WESH TV on YouTube, and I wanted to talk about their clip because I thought it was interesting. The defense is now planning on dredging up all of Trayvon's history, his school records, and stuff like that. So I thought it was interesting.
Latest filing by the defense. Amanda?
George Zimmerman's defense team says on its website that it has begun the discovery process, and the latest filings include several subpoenas aimed at gathering records on Trayvon Martin's school history dating back to middle school. Now, in those subpoenas, Zimmerman's attorneys request any disciplinary or suspension notices, attendance records, as well as extracurricular activities, class schedules, and even test scores.
And I know a lot of the Trayvon people that support Trayvon think that it's terrible that they're looking into the victim's history. But it's almost like they don't realize that the true victim is the guy that got beat up, not the guy that was doing the beating. You know, I don't know what's happened with our society, but in the very near past, we've had more and more people argue the point that a man does not have the right to self-defense, especially if he is following somebody. That if you're following somebody, you forfeit your life. If that person turns around and blows your brains out or attacks you with a baseball bat, that's okay. That's their right. You were following them. You had a lot of nerve to be following somebody or to wonder what they're doing in your gated community. So I just thought that this is a perfect time, and I'm glad that they're finally doing it. The world, the country needs to know. We already know a majority of it. Number one, Trayvon attacked a bus driver. So that is evidence that he's a violent person. He attacked a bus driver. He's also been in fights, many fights, but he was kicked out of school for a bag with a tiny bit of marijuana in it. And he was also kicked out of school for writing great big letters across the marker, great big graffiti letters across lockers, school lockers. And there's somewhere online you can find the picture of it. It's just a great big WTF across the lockers, which, that's typical kid stuff. But the main thing, the thing that I thought was most valuable to the case and should be accepted into the case, is the evidence that was gathered from the school from his backpack. Inside his backpack, he had a burglary tool and also ladies' jewelry that he couldn't give an explanation for. I mean, he said, oh, somebody gave it to me to hold, but he couldn't tell us who it was, or, we would like to follow up on that and find out exactly where that is. The burglary tool that he had was the kind of tool that you would use to break into those houses that were broken into. And most likely that was the tool that was being used to break into the houses. He might not have had that same tool because they probably took it away from him. But I'm sure he got another one because he knows what works. How do you get in? How do you get a sliding glass door to open? It's pretty easy. You get a great big oversized screwdriver and you jimmy the door. So that's what he had. He had a big oversized sharpened screwdriver. So they might not allow that in as evidence, but to me, that is evidence that he possibly could have been considering pursuing a burglary. And that's why George found him to be looking suspicious, because he was walking around looking like he was looking into houses. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, he didn't have the screwdriver on him when he was killed. But that doesn't mean that he didn't have it on him when he took off running. I mean, anybody would assume that he would hide anything like that. If he thought that George was a security guard or a undercover police or something like that, the first thing he would do is run around a corner, find a place to hide his stash, whatever it is he had that he figured would be illegal or would be a problem. Maybe he had already stolen some stuff from houses and he hid some of the jewelry. Who knows? It's just speculation, and it's not anything that would add to the case. It's just speculation. But we do know, based on the evidence, that he has, at the very minimum, a history of holding burglary tools and stolen items. So with that information, that should definitely come in to the courtroom.
At the time Martin was shot, he had been suspended from school in Miami after being found with an empty marijuana bag. The Miami Herald has reported that Martin was also suspended from school twice before, once for writing an obscenity on a school door. The other incident involved truancy. On his blog, Zimmerman's lawyer, Mark O'Mara, says more subpoenas are coming, including one to request records of Trayvon Martin's activities and postings on social media websites like Facebook or Twitter. And
that would be good, too. Of course, you know, as soon as this all came to light, all of his Twitter account and all of his accounts, his online accounts, disappeared. It was like somebody went in there and scrubbed it. Why would they do that? What? I mean, typically, if you go online, let's say some kid got killed. I'm sure that happened in the past month or so. Go out and find a kid that got killed, and he's dead. Now go online and find his Facebook and all those other things. They're still there. All the Facebook, all those accounts. Nobody deletes their accounts just because somebody dies. Most of the time, people don't even realize. Like if a kid dies, the parents don't even realize that he had a Facebook or that he had any of these accounts, and they usually don't find out. It's just out there in the internet unless they do some investigation. But what would cause them to wipe out all of his documentation, everything that he had written, all the things that he had said in the past? That should all come out. That should have stayed on the internet, don't you think? And if they did take it off, who took it off? Who and why? That's what I want to know. That should be a very important question. And if they don't provide this information, then you've got to assume the worst. The main thing of this video, the main point of the video is, I feel the prosecution did some really mean things to George on purpose. For example, they brought up a witness that, I think it was witness number 9, or the one that was the cousin that was supposedly molested by an 8-year-old George. Well, they had both agreed to leave that out, but then the judge allowed it, and the prosecution went ahead and released it to the public when they didn't even need to bring it up. They didn't need to go and ask this lady any questions or discuss it. It had nothing to do with the case, and they knew it. But they wanted to go ahead and get it on record. And then, of course, once it got on record in Florida, it has to be public. So, in response to that and the attitude of the prosecution, I find it's only necessary and reasonable that the defense would do the same thing. Go ahead and bring out things that may not be used in the case, but would help George in the case of public opinion. Because right now, all we have in public opinion is these negative things about George and nothing about Trayvon, even though Trayvon has a ton of dirty laundry that needs to be aired. Of course, we know most of it, but it hasn't been brought out and verified. For example, the fact that he beat up the bus driver, that hasn't been verified in public on the court records, so we would like to see that. And that way, you know, we'll just release it as and put it on the website as a public information, but it won't be included in the court case. It's just public information. Isn't that nice how that works out? So the prosecution can do that, and they can damage George all they want, and then George, in fair turnabout, will do the same. I mean, there's no reason why George has to look like the bad guy and Trayvon look like the good guy. Shouldn't it be all the truth? Let's get all the truth out there. Anyway, good talking to you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.